Have you ever heard a story that immediately pulls you in, the kind you just can't shake from your mind? Tonight, we step into one of those stories, a disappearance that left a young man's family searching for answers, and a community wondering what really happened. Welcome to Crime and Consequence. The case is that of Kadin Black. When he vanished, he was only 19 years old. And yet, the mystery of where he went, or what happened to him, remains unsolved. Kadin Black was last seen on December 17, 2022, in Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. At the time, he was living with his close friend Ethan Fa and Ethan's family. Before that, he had stayed with his father, though their relationship was sometimes strained. Still, there was no deep rift. Kadin continued to visit his dad and even the family dog regularly. His parents, Maurice and Kara, had divorced when he was only 3 years old. That meant Kadin grew up moving between two homes, but he maintained good relationships with both. His mother lived in Maryland with his two siblings, and Kadin had made plans to spend Christmas 2022 with them. But those plans never happened. When Kadin didn't show up at his father's house on Sunday, Maurice became concerned. Calls went unanswered. Out of worry, Maurice reached out to Chris Fa, Ethan's father, to ask if he had seen Kadin. But Maurice couldn't reach him. Then, on Tuesday, December 20th, 3 full days after anyone had last seen Kadin, Chris finally phoned Kara, Kadin's mother, to ask if she had heard from her son. That call was unusual. Chris lived in Pennsylvania, the same state as Maurice. Yet, instead of contacting the father again, he reached out to Kara in Maryland, several hours away. It was only then that Kara learned her son hadn't been seen since the weekend. The official report was made soon after. Chris Fa contacted the Windsor Township Police Department, telling them that Kadin had left either late Saturday night or in the very early hours of Sunday morning. He explained that he had woken up around 5 or 6 a.m., and by then, Kadin was already gone. But here's where the first red flag appears. Investigators later discovered that Kadin's phone had still been connected to the Fa family's Wi-Fi at 9:33 a.m. on Sunday, December 18th. That detail raises a critical question. If his phone was still in the house hours later, how could he have already left? The timeline suddenly didn't add up. Chris explained that Kadin and Ethan often spent hours gaming together, sometimes disappearing into their rooms for long stretches. For him, not seeing Kadin for a while wasn't unusual. Still, in the weeks leading up to the disappearance, he noticed a change. Kadin had grown distant, less talkative, more withdrawn. Instead of hanging out with the family like before, he often shut himself away in his room. It was a noticeable shift. Because up until then, Kadin had been closely tied to the Fa family, joining them for bike rides, car repairs, gym sessions, and dinners out. Photos online still show him side by side with them, almost like another member of the household. 2 weeks before he disappeared, Kadin had even started a new job at a local moving company. Both Kara and Chris confirmed this. But when Kara later went to speak with one of his co-workers, the man claimed he didn't know Kadin at all. That detail struck her as bizarre. How could someone not remember working with him, especially if it had only been days earlier? Police say they followed up with his employer and the leads connected to the moving company. Nothing suspicious was uncovered. But the unease remained. Kadin was simply gone. And in cases like this, until answers surface, everyone close to the missing person becomes a possible piece of the puzzle. Adding to the tension, Kadin had a court date scheduled for late January 2023. Months earlier, he had been arrested after a physical altercation with a bus driver. The incident weighed heavily on him. While his family believed he would be cleared, Kadin himself feared jail time. It wasn't just legal trouble on his mind. He also faced his own internal battles, diagnosed with bipolar disorder and struggling emotionally in the months before he vanished. And this is only the beginning of the story. Kadin's struggles with mental health were not a secret to his family. He had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and autism, conditions that sometimes caused him to act out. His parents believed these challenges likely played a role in the altercation with the bus driver that led to his court case. Their hope was that, once in court, these factors would be recognized, perhaps resulting in probation rather than jail time. Despite the looming legal issues, his family remained confident he wouldn't face serious consequences. To them, Kadin was not a criminal, he was a young man navigating difficulties, but surrounded by love and support. In the community, people remembered him differently. He wasn't defined by his struggles. He was remembered as an athlete. In high school, Kadin had run track. In fact, Chief Jim Thomas, the very man leading the police investigation, had once been his coach. Thomas recalled him as well liked by teammates and peers, a young man with an athletic build and a friendly reputation. But then comes a chilling detail. The last ping from Kadin's phone registered at 9:28 a.m. on December 18th. The signal connected to a tower near Old Commons Road in Lower Windsor Township, roughly 2.5 miles away from the Fa residence. After that, silence. On December 19th, he missed his scheduled shift at work, a job he had only just begun 2 weeks earlier. Now, anyone familiar with cell data knows, tower pings aren't exact science. Phones can bounce off nearby towers, sometimes farther away than expected. Still, for investigators, that 9:28 a.m. ping was the final trace of digital life from Kadin. Then came the searches. Authorities launched extensive efforts by ground and air. Drones scanned the skies. Officers combed the Fa residence, the surrounding woods, and the broader community. They even brought in dogs trained to detect electronic devices, hoping to locate Kadin's phone. Every sweep came back empty. Not a trace. It was as if Kadin had vanished into thin air. Chief Thomas eventually admitted what many already feared: investigators could not rule out foul play. In fact, they leaned toward it. "We believe there's a possibility something criminal happened," he told reporters. Descriptions of Kadin were circulated widely: dark brown hair, brown eyes, 5 feet 10 inches tall, around 180 pounds, athletic build. His clothing on the day he disappeared remains unknown, though his mother noted he usually wore dark outfits with white sneakers. Police also believe he left with little more than the clothes on his back and his wallet. But the missing piece, the one that could change everything, was his cell phone. Investigators secured his data through a search warrant, but the device itself was never found. To his mother, Kara, the phone remains the single most crucial key to unlocking the truth. She believes that if it surfaces, answers will follow. And then came a development that shook the family's trust. Months after Kadin's disappearance, Chris Fa, the man whose home Kadin had been staying in, abruptly blocked the Black family on Facebook. Even more unsettling, he later sold Kadin's Toyota 4Runner, a vehicle that had been in Fa's name for insurance purposes. To Kadin's father, Maurice, this was unthinkable. "If you truly believe my son is missing, why would you sell his car?" he asked. The decision didn't just feel inappropriate, it screamed of suspicion. For the family, these actions raised more red flags than ever. Blocking communication with a missing boy's parents, distancing oneself from their pain, liquidating his belongings, it was behavior that simply didn't fit the role of a concerned friend. Screenshots of the vehicle's online listing only deepened those concerns. To the family, it wasn't just strange, it was alarming. Meanwhile, Kara refused to stop fighting. She organized vigils. She stood before cameras. She spoke at press conferences, repeating her son's name so it would not be forgotten. Every word she delivered was a plea: keep looking for Kadin, keep asking questions, keep his case alive. For Kadin's father, hope has never faded. Maurice carries his son with him, literally. His arm bears a tattoo in Kadin's honor, a permanent reminder that he refuses to believe his boy is gone. "I've never felt like he was dead," he said. And yet, the contradictions, the unanswered questions, and the troubling details keep circling in his mind. Something about this case simply doesn't add up. But silence was exactly what they faced from the Fa family, the household where Kadin had been staying. Their actions left relatives shaken. Not only did they block Kadin's immediate family on social media, but they also sold his car, a 2002 Toyota 4Runner. Chris Fa, the father, listed the vehicle online for $8,500. In the ad, he detailed thousands of dollars in recent repairs, a rebuilt engine, new belts, brakes, axles, suspension, even freshly replaced emission systems. The listing emphasized how clean the interior was, how new the floor mats and tires looked, how the frame had been protected for years of reliable use. But what the ad never mentioned was perhaps the most important detail: the SUV didn't truly belong to him. It was Kadin's. Maybe Chris justified it to himself. He had spent money on repairs, the car had been under his name for insurance, and in his mind, he had the right to sell it. But to Kadin's parents, that reasoning rang hollow. Their son was missing, not gone. If he returned, how could his car simply no longer be there? For them, the sale wasn't just unusual, it was suspicious, deeply unsettling, and impossible to ignore. That decision, combined with the social media blocking, shifted the family's perspective. Until then, suspicion hadn't focused heavily on the Fa household. But once those moves came to light, red flags shot up everywhere. And yet, the investigation pressed on. Law enforcement released a detailed timeline in a press briefing about a year after Kadin's disappearance. The facts were laid out methodically. On December 20, 2022, at 8:30 a.m., officers were dispatched regarding a missing 19-year-old male, Kadin Black of Lower Windsor Township. He had left the home on Vicky Lee Drive, where he'd been living for months, without warning. At the time, police reported no obvious signs of foul play. His shoes, wallet, and phone were missing, and investigators noted he had recently deleted some social media accounts, though they couldn't confirm whether that was connected. That night, his name was entered into the National Crime Information Database so other departments would be alerted. Investigators tracked his phone. Its last activity registered around 12:12 p.m., again pinging off a tower near Old Commons Road, just 2.4 miles from the Fa home. The following day, December 21st, detectives updated Kadin's mother, Kara, and encouraged her to contact the media. Officers canvassed the community, speaking to friends, acquaintances, and townspeople, but no one had concrete information. They searched wooded areas, fields, and even the Fa residence itself, with the family's cooperation. Nothing emerged. On December 22nd, detectives expanded their search radius, using Google Maps to identify trails, ATV paths, and properties linked to Kadin. They interviewed co-workers, checked his pay records, and even spoke to the person who had shared dinner with him on December 16th. That friend confirmed Kadin left their home around 11 p.m. and had planned to meet again at work on Monday, December 19th. Investigators circled back to the Fa residence, re-examining Kadin's room, vehicles, and nearby wooded areas. Once again, no evidence surfaced. Meanwhile, Kara faced another cruelty of the digital age: hostile, anonymous spam messages triggered by the family's missing person flyer. Police chased those leads, too. They led nowhere. On December 23rd, a reported sighting came in. Someone thought they had seen Kadin walking in the area of roofers in Windsor Township. Police rushed to review surveillance footage. It wasn't him. By December 27th, with leads drying up, detectives began pulling financial records, searching for any sign of activity through Kadin's bank account. They scoured businesses linked to recent transactions, checked surveillance, and ran down every thread. Still, nothing. Patrol officers swept fields, wooded trails, and even treatment plant grounds. Each location turned up empty. By December 29th, police returned to the Fa home once again, interviewing the family and examining Kadin's belongings. Nothing seemed out of place. Through it all, Kara pushed to organize a large-scale civilian search. She wanted the community mobilized. Investigators, however, stressed caution. Massive search efforts required trained personnel and property permissions. Without structure, they risked contaminating potential evidence or endangering volunteers. The case lingered in limbo: no suspects, no breakthroughs, no closure. What began as a quiet December morning spiraled into an unresolved mystery, one marked by gaps, contradictions, and haunting questions. Was Kadin a young man overwhelmed by personal struggles who chose to vanish on his own terms? Or was he the victim of something darker, something deliberately hidden? For now, those answers remain buried. But for his family, tattoos etched in his memory, vigils lit in his name, voices raised for his cause, hope endures. And until the truth is uncovered, they will never stop searching. As weeks turned into months, investigators continued pressing forward. A search warrant was issued for Kadin's full cell phone records, texts, calls, tower locations, everything that might map his final movements. But retrieving and analyzing that volume of data takes time, and as of the most recent updates, detectives were still waiting on portions of it. The case was also handed to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which circulated Kadin's poster nationwide. His profile was pushed onto the State Police Information Network, alerting every department in Pennsylvania to be on the lookout. Financial records were scrutinized. Bank statements, credit card purchases, and transaction histories were forwarded to the district attorney's office. Yet no new activity appeared after Kadin vanished. His accounts went silent, just like his phone. On January 2nd, search teams took to the ground again. This time, the South Central Search and Rescue Unit, joined by the East Prospect Fire Company, scoured the areas around Vicky Lee Drive. Drones buzzed overhead, while officers checked private properties with homeowners' permission. Nothing surfaced. Crime Stoppers even stepped in, offering a reward for information, hoping money might coax the truth from someone withholding it. But leads remained scarce. On January 3rd, yet another tip came in. Someone thought they had seen Kadin walking along West Philadelphia Street. Police reacted immediately, sending 2 officers and surveillance photos to York City within half an hour. The area was swept. The perimeter secured? Again, the sighting proved false. By now, the investigation was exhausting every avenue: interviews with friends and co-workers, repeated checks of the FA residence, digital footprints, financial records, aerial searches, foot patrols. And yet, not one trace brought Kadin home. Finally, Chief Thomas addressed the public directly. His message was clear. We are asking for your help. Someone out there has seen Kadin since December 17th or knows where he is now. If you have information, please call the Lower Windsor Township Police at 717-244-8055, or contact York County 911. Kadin's mother, Kara, stood before cameras, her voice breaking under the weight of grief. I know somebody knows where my son is, or what happened to him. Somebody has to know. And Kadin, if you're out there, please call me. Call my work if you can't call my phone. I will come to you. You are so loved. You are loved by so many people who are worried, who are praying for you every day. Please, just let me know you're okay. Her words cut deeper than any report or press release. They weren't statistics or evidence, they were the raw, unfiltered pain of a mother longing for her son. Since December 2022, right before Christmas, Kadin Black has remained missing. A family lives in limbo. Siblings wonder. Parents ache. And a mother refuses to stop asking questions. Maybe foul play was involved? Maybe something darker happened? Or maybe the truth is buried in choices Kadin made himself. But what is certain is this: someone knows what happened the weekend of December 17th and 18th, 2022. If that someone is you, this family deserves your honesty. Even the smallest detail could change everything. Tips can be given anonymously. Silence, however, leaves a family trapped in torment. Until answers come, Kara, Maurice, and Kadin's siblings will hold on to hope. And the world will keep asking, what happened to Kadin Black?